Rome probably is one of the most fantastic cities in Europe. There are other cities, of course, but Rome has a special vibe. And this week I would like to talk with you about street photography in Rome with a special focus on light. But before we get into that, please sign up for my newsletter. There's a link in the text below the video. You can also follow the channel here, of course, and visit my website where you can read a lot more about photography, not only about the photo workshops I do, but I also post camera stuff and different kinds of approaches to street photography, which is my focus with this channel. Rome and light is something really special. Light is special in every city, but Rome has that special vibe around it, a special culture, which at the recent workshop we explored with our cameras, walking around the street seeking for light in all kinds of ways. And light is not just light. Light is the essence of photography, of course, because without light, no photos. That was the very start of photography, being able to capture light on a plate of film, silhouette, and now today in modern cameras also on a digital sensor. But film and digital sensors are the same. They need light to produce an image of what we are seeing. We use our lens, opening up, shutting down the aperture, faster or slower shutter speed, and the ISO level is set for in earlier days, that was the ISO of the film, how sensitive it was for light. Today we dial a button here on a wheel here on the camera to get more or less light sensitivity on the sensor, which then influences on how we balance the light in the camera. All of that put together makes an image, but that's not enough. It's not enough just looking at the technical side. We have to master that to balance the light, but it very much depends on what kind of light there is. Today in my workshop room here, this is a side building to our house I'm sitting in. I have big windows all over, and it is a very smooth light coming in here, very soft light, and that's because it is cloudy outside. The light is filtered through clouds. So that's what we are looking for when we are going on a workshop, going through the streets alone or in a group like on my workshop. We are looking for different types of light. We are studying it, and we take the most advantage of the light in the situation. And the situation is depending on the weather, the time of the day, thereby the color temperature of the light, if it is cloudy, if it is sunny, if the sun is low on the heaven in the morning or afternoon, or it is higher up at the sky during the midday casting really harsh shadows, or it is softened through a hazy day, or depending on where in the street you are, where the light is allowed to slip in, and finally how it bounces from objects around the city where we are working with our camera. So all of that, no matter if you're doing nature photography, street photography, portraits outside, whatever kind of photo you make, it can be sports, light is what makes the mood in your pictures, besides framing and choosing the subjects and sceneries you want to capture. But light is the essence of that. Light can be used to frame situations. Light can be used to hide things in the photo, not only by framing, but also how you use light. Light can be used to elevate and bring forward a certain object, a person or a thing in the photo. All of that is based on light. Light have different temperatures. I have a lamp here in the background. Let's bring that forward. That has one color, so when I turn it on, it has a very warm color. Pretty much the same as the sun outside. It has its own color temperature, which is about 3200 Kelvin, or a little bit lower depending on the light bulb here. But when the sun is filtered through the sky, it changes the color, and that changes the way that colors are reproduced, but even in black and white, it changes how colors are illuminated and how they are presented on a digital or celluloid film. All of that also relies on how we balance our white balance in the camera, how we set it. All of that influences on how the image presents itself when it is captured. So on the workshop, we walked around Rome. We looked for the light early in the morning, in the mid of the day, and in the afternoon, and we took advantage of that to make both better street portraits, but especially better sceneries. And every time we walked around a corner, it changed. It changed during half an hour, 30 minutes of walk, or during a lunch break when we then walk back in the same street. We can see how everything is now lit in a different way than when we came there the first time 30 minutes earlier. And all of that is what I find personally is extremely interesting in doing photography, studying light. I have done that all of my life. Since I took up a camera the very first time, I began to study light and how it influenced on objects. And as one of the participants on the last workshop said, even though this man was very experienced, I have never looked at light this way before than after I told how it was behaving and how we looked at it during the day and during the 2 days workshop. It changed his mind on how light actually behaved, and I hope that this is something he can use in the future, and all of the participants can use in their future work with street photography, or if it is wedding photography, or it is family portraits, or it is travel photography. Light is the most important thing to know about. Then we can begin to look at capturing people, how we approach them, how we take street photos. In general, capturing bigger scenes and using the light to form that, but also how we approach people and take portraits. Light is really important, how this portrait will end up look like. We can make something very dramatic, we can make something very smooth and subtle, but all points backwards to how light behaves. And in Rome it behaves different than it does up here in Northern Europe, where I'm sitting in Denmark right now in my workshop room. It behaves different when we go up to Stockholm on a later workshop, or next week when I go to Helsinki in Finland. Light will be different, which is so fascinating about photography, to study light and how it behaves different in different buildings, but especially in different environments. And the island where I live at here in the middle of Denmark, in some areas, artists are settling down in those areas, especially painters who want to paint natural landscapes. They seek for certain parts of this island because the light is different there than it is at other parts of the country. There are some famous painters up in Skagen, up north in Jutland, in the top of Denmark. They seek the special light in that place. Other people, also Danish painters, seek to Italy, to Rome, to find the light they love there. And it will be different if you are in the mountains, at sea level, nearby the sea, or in the middle of the country. And I can tell you a funny story. Years ago, I went to make a reportage in India, in the middle of the country near Madras, and that was with a film camera for a TV documentary. And my camera broke down. I was sure during that shooting, because the Kelvin grades when I took my white balance at my camera said the same thing all over, no matter what time of the day. It said 5,600 Kelvin grades, and I knew that is not right, because when I'm in the shadow or in the sun, it will it will tell me different temperatures. Hi Daisy, here comes the cat. Come. And it will say different temperatures if you are in the shadow, if you are in the middle of the day or in the afternoon. But what happened was that it said exactly the same was pretty sure that the camera was broke, and I set it at a preset 5600 for the rest of the takes to be sure I had something, and then I tried to adapt my pictures so I knew, okay, this is going to be a little more blue cast and this will be a little bit more warm in the early morning. But what I miscalculated in my young days there as a TV photographer, as the cameraman, and I also brought cameras for capturing still photos on film, was that the influence of the kind of desert-like soil in the area made the color change into the same Kelvin grade no matter what time of day it was. And I was used to walk around here at this island where I have blue cast from the sea, or when it's a little bit cloudy, I know it will be cooler temperatures, especially in the evening, and in the middle of the day with the sun up on the sky, it will be a third kind of color temperature. So I can almost predict what color temperature in Kelvin it is just by looking at it. But there I was fooled completely by the reflecting light from that desert sand, making the Kelvin temperature the same all day long. So when I came home, I watched the footage I took. It looked perfect. Everything just looked perfect and wonderful. And that was because of that color cast, the reflecting, bouncing light from the ground that changed everything. So I learned a lesson there because the camera showed new values when I checked the white balance at home, which proved that I was just fooled by the light in the country where I was in India. So now I know that by experience and begin to look at light in different ways. And in Rome, where we have different kinds of structures and buildings and light is bouncing around the street, that also influences on everything. And this is what I teach on my workshops. How to look for light is the most important thing. Next, we can begin to look at what we capture and how we capture it, how we approach different sceneries, and what approach we have to street photography in general. But light is the fundamental of this. This is what I love to teach at my workshops, and I'm glad to see the faces of my students when they walk around and say, oh, this is what you mean, this is how it behaves, now I understand it. And that gives me an immense pleasure to do. So thank you for watching this little episode about light, and be sure to sign up for my newsletter and join a workshop in the near future in Stockholm, Copenhagen, Paris, Rome. Wherever I go, you find the list on the website. Thank you for watching.